Complain on a day like today? Who could complain? Nobody. Things are going great. Every day walking with Christ. Congrats on episode 500. Thanks a lot, my man. Thanks a lot. Got some bugs. You'll see that it was a bit cloudy and rainy this morning, so the bugs are out. We don't have too much of a bug problem down here, though, so we're okay. We're okay. I got some comments here from over on the YouTube because the scam it just doesn't work anymore. I don't get the quotes up here. I've got to switch from Restream. I got to go back to Rumble Studios. What do we got? Good morning, team. Hope the simulation gives us some Phil Bump Moscow time. I think Phil's on vacation. I got no Phil Bump today. I'm sorry to say, Jose. No way, Jose. Not happening with Phil Bump today. Couldn't find it. By the way, it's very difficult to do Moscow time the day after April Fool's Day. It's almost impossible. So we got thin pickings today, slim pickings, right? There's nothing we can do about that. 1 second. Bitcoin Deb says, good morning, 500. Woohoo, indeed. Everyday Walking the Christ says again, good morning, Maxis, and God bless you all from rainy and cold Wisconsin. Thanks a lot, my man. Bitcoin Deb, read your election guide last night. On point, loved it. Thanks a lot, Bitcoin Deb. Oh, I'm starting to get the comments here. I'm starting to see some stuff. There we go. Okay, we're back in business. It's just the preloaded ones. Just the preloaded ones that I got trouble with. And let me go to not syncing, huh? Is that so? Is that so? My connection is super strong. Can't be that. Let me know if anyone else is having this trouble. I'm going to go see what they're saying on Rumble. I'm not sure what I can do. But I do indeed think I'm going to have to go to Rumble Studio soon because this thing is, even though I had the troubles with Rumble Studio, I think it's going to get better. And I doubt this thing's getting better. So not synced up, for God's sakes. For God's sakes. Audio off. Not synced on YouTube, for fuck's sakes. Okay. Let me see what I can do about this, guys. Let me see if I... Okay, looks like I'm speaking Korean. We don't like that. I can speak some Korean. Yabaseo. 저는 노린입니다. We can hear you. 괜찮아요. Dang it, you deserved good audio sync today. Yeah, that's not how it works. Unfortunately, fairness is not involved in production. Good morning, Courtney. We got some technical issues, so if you're wondering what's going on, why we haven't started Moscow time yet, I'm leaving you hanging on confirmation of the sunrise, though. It happened, even though it's a little cloudy. You're not getting many blue skies out there. You're not getting any beautiful sea, but we can have a coffee, talk about what's new. Because Bitcoin's running just fine, everyone, even though this stupid thing isn't working. All right, let's see. I've disabled the camera for a second. I'm going to see if that has any effect. Did it resync? Probably not. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. And I switched the video. Why? Okay, yeah. So what's going on now? I'm going to mirror and then back. I've only got the one camera. All right. Daniel says, nah, nothing's working, huh? What if I do something stupid like this? I don't know. Does this work? Press Shift 4. None of this is doing anything, huh? All right. The last time it happened to me, I started pretending I was on a kung fu movie doing fight movies with the swish sound effects. Swish, swish, swish. All right. I just don't know what to do, guys. If I end, can I reconnect? You know what I'm going to do? Okay, bear with me. I'm going to shut the internet off for a second, lose the connection, and sometimes it can resync after that. So let me see how that works. All right. Hold on. Take a deep breath, everyone. Take a deep breath. This might work and it might not. We'll see. If I don't, I will spin up a new one, but it'll take me a minute. Yeah, it's the voice sync. Okay, did I get it? Did that work? Maybe it worked. We don't know. We don't know. You know what I might do too? I might take the mic off because you know what, it gave me a weird, you killed my father. It's better. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to do one more thing. It's going to screw up the audio, but I don't know if we have a choice. Let me see if this works. It might be the problem. Okay. All right. So the audio, I usually just listen. Yeah. So do it live. Do it live. We're doing it live. This is all live. More synced, but not 100%. Okay. What I just did was I took my mic off because it gave me a ridiculous warning that, these Apple computers, it asked me if I wanted to use my USB drive, like if it wanted to install the USB drive of the laptop. That's what it came up with today. So when I went on, it was like, do you want to use the USB on this machine? And I'm like, well, no, I don't want the USB on my laptop. I wanted to just sit there and waste time. I want it to be a useless hole. That's what I was into. I wanted a useless hole, right? I didn't want a USB that worked. I wanted a useless hole. Maybe I can stuff shit into it or something like that, Still off, yeah. Unreal. And now, by the way, the new scam on YouTube is that I can't even see the views of the show for the whole day after it's over. So it'll start. I'll have try this restart only. That's what I did. Okay, I'll unmute. All right, I've gone back to the mic. Yeah, our tech is not improving as it should. TVs are also crap, aren't they? I mean, look, how many people are doing this podcast daily show thing? How many? It's in the millions. It's got to be in the millions. And they can't come up with a device that just does that. Like, I bought this laptop thinking, like an idiot, that they had figured it out. They made a device for podcasters. It has a great mic. It has a great thing. It has a great stuff. No, that was all fake. It's a piece of shit. It asked me, just like I said, hey, do you want to install a USB driver? Down to 1.5 seconds. Motherfucker. Yeah, no sun today, Bitcoin Graffiti. No sun today. Morning from the desert. Yeah. Okay, we're going to do one more thing. I'm going to do the internet thing again. That might work. Who knows? Who knows? I'm going to cut the internet. I'm going to see you all in a second, and let's see what it does. All right, team. Lag or be some latency filter. Yeah, I just don't know. Elevator music. Na, 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 na. Angry Nolan out of sync is very entertaining. Yeah, of course it does, LMH. It's a piece of shit. Of course it does. Of course it has the fucking garbage M1 chip that is unfixable cryptographic key vulnerability. I love it. It's the best thing that ever happened to me. It's just fantastic. This Apple shit's getting the gun treatment at some point, guys. You're gonna get to see me on the front yard in Vermont blowing this shit away one day. It's gotta happen. That'll be my laser eye 100K Bitcoin celebration. I'm gonna shoot my Apple crap with a gun. Why can't it just work? Yeah, we don't know. We just don't know. Moscow time is even better with SNL effects. All right, did it work? Yeah, steep decline. I mean, can you even navigate the interface anymore? Like the amount of things you have to touch and do, and the amount of fake choices you get, like the turn off your hotspot. Have you seen this scam? Now the button that lets you turn on and off the hotspot of your iPhone doesn't do anything. It just automatically reverts to being back on. It's just automatic. You can't turn it off. So the button is still there, which gives you this fake illusion that you can shut the hotspot off. Look it up. You're not going to believe it. And I'm telling you, I shut it off and it comes back on. And all I think about after that, the minute that happens, is resuscitating Steve Jobs so that he would kill the person at Apple who did that. He would come back and kill them. Imagine putting a button that doesn't work, that serves no purpose on an Apple product under Steve Jobs. I mean, it would be death. It would be death. And that's how we have to live now. You know, the it does nothing. I hate that feature. No, it's worse than worse, because when you click it, it's that it doesn't work and it's still there is the most bewildering, frustrating experience that anyone in a tech company could possibly create. And that's what Steve Jobs' whole mission was to destroy. So now we have it, you know? It's unbelievable. This already preset humorous filter, just another simulation playing with us. The show must go on. Yes. The show will go on. Take a pic on your iPhone. Oops, what just happened there? Take a pic on your iPhone and wanted to seamlessly email it from your Mac. Absolutely impossible. Email it. What that already? That's the 90s. That's the fucking 90s. Like, what about all this seamless handover? None of that's real. That's all fake. It doesn't work. Every now and again, I can copy and paste something from my phone to the computer, but it's like half the time it doesn't work. Pictures. I airdrop yesterday because I'm doing, oh, by the way, everyone, you're going to see, I don't know if it'll be ready today, but in the next couple of days, I'll be turning the Bitcoiner's Guide to the US 2024 elections into a YouTube video. I did all the audio recordings yesterday, and I'll use some of the pictures, some other pictures too. It might be pretty good. We'll see. But getting the information from my tablet, I mean, you just have no idea how stupid the whole process was. I'm using the phone to record the audio. Do you think that's easy to get over to the laptop? It's not possible. You have to individually send each one of them. Now the airdrops at least work, but anyway, you're not here. You're here for fake news. You're not here for the tech stupid shit, right? We hate it. We just absolutely hate it. Now, because it's Moscow time, right? We love Moscow time. We're going to start with our special subcategory of Moscow time called Havana syndrome, right? It's if you get too much Moscow time, you get Havana syndrome. So this is great. This comes from CBS News. They got two ones. We're going to start off the morning with CBS News twice. A special one for Jevi as well. Listen to this. Listen to the CBS News. Listen to their writing. Russian nexus revealed during 60 Minutes Havana syndrome investigation into potential attacks on U.S. officials. Russian nexus, right? Of course, Cernovich had something funny to say. He says, if Havana syndrome Russian ray guns are real, why did Putler only use them on members of the intelligence community who lied about Hunter Biden's laptop being Russian disinformation? And we can now explain the whole thing, by the way. Jordan Schachtel, a speaker at Bitcoin 2023, and I think he'll be there at Bitcoin 2024, says the following. Why are so many random government agents claiming to be suffering from Havana syndrome? The devil is in the details. So apparently we got this thing called the Havana Act, which passed in 2021, and it gives untaxed lump sum payments of 1 year's salary to government employees with a neurological injury. That's going to be everyone. That's going to be the whole government. Everyone's going to get a neurological injury from Moscow time Havana syndrome pretty soon. Yeah, melted brains. They're literally getting it because their brains have fucking melted from all the fake news they consume. So now they get a lump sum payment. Listen, guys, if everyone read the Embrace and Amplify part of the Bitcoiner's Guide to 2024 elections, you have to pray for this. You've got to pray that Janet Yellen issues bonds to pay for the neurological injuries. Wouldn't that be the funniest way for fiat to die? Wouldn't it be the funniest way for the federal government to collapse on its own weight? Neurological syndromes and the Havana Syndrome Act, the Havana Act, which is a function of Moscow time. Come on. At that point, would you believe this world is real or a video game and a simulation? Which would you have to believe if that happened, right? I mean, it's got to be. It's just got to be, right? So there we go. Here's the next one from CBS News. Bird flu has hit the U.S. dairy cattle for the first time. Here's what it means for raw milk. No more raw milk. Okay, I don't know why I included this one. You know, this has Larry David in it. It's just a funny headline. Larry David, he's got major TDS, by the way. It looks like some mental illness is going on. Looks like he's got a bad case of Havana syndrome. Here we go. This is it's just a funny headline, so we're gonna share it. None of your fucking business. Stunning Chris Wallace, Larry David exchange somehow includes Barbara Walters and giving head. Hey, when a headline like that comes, it makes it to Moscow time. All right, this one's good too. Washington Post. You know it's going to be a good Moscow time when I start with Washington Post. Earth has a long-running fever that shows little signs of easing. Earth's got a fever. It's sick. It's got a fever. The time, it's cold, so the time is getting screwed up. That's what we heard about yesterday. But now it's got a long-running fever. Earth has got the sniffles. The planet has set high temperature records in each of the last 9 months, and March is poised to become the 10th. So what they did here, guys, is they measured every square inch of the world, all right, including the atmosphere and the different levels of atmosphere. They do it because they do it every day, right? They do it every day, and then they get a whole real, legitimate, credible aggregate for the month all around the world in every place, and then they can tell that it's, a 0.1 difference. And they have this throughout history. They've been doing this forever. It's been going on for years, right? Everyone who's there. Now, I know you see nothing but incompetence around you when you look out into the world, but they hired the only competent people. So they know how to read the temperature gauges. They do it right away at the same time, right? They're just so reliable. Good thing we have them. We're really lucky. All right. The long running fever. Well, guess what? I got good news. The fever, guess what? They got two headlines in this on Bloomberg Green today. They got two headlines. Right? I'm going to read them both and we'll talk about it. All right. This is two headlines, not one. All right. It's the same church, but it's two headlines. One of Britain's most famous churches is getting power from the sun this Easter. Another one, a dramatic 438 solar panel display on a historic chapel in Cambridge is just one way the Church of England is practicing what it preaches on climate change. So the news here is that a church got solar panels. Two articles. They put some solar panels on the roof. That's news. But the solar panel story doesn't end there. They had another story on solar panels today, right? Bloomberg Green again, right? Solar stocks battered by falling prices, tariffs, and rising borrowing costs face another potential threat over the coming months. Donald Trump. He's going to get the solar panels at the Church of England. The world will still have a fever. It will still have. Those were all from Bloomberg Green and the Washington Poop. This one's good. All right. So this is back on Trump, right? This is MSNBC. This is what they're saying, right? This is a headline. Trump wants to stop New York City trial due to bad publicity. He's getting bad publicity. Stop. It's the bad publicity, everyone. It's all publicity. It's bad publicity, right? It's bad publicity. This is a good one, too. The Washington Post. Donald Trump is ramping up efforts to disparage judges overseeing his criminal and civil cases, reprising a long-standing strategy as a high-profile trial draws near and prompting growing concerns from legal experts. The legal experts are concerned. They're so concerned. Legal experts. Axios says, exclusive. If Trump returns to the White House, close allies want to dramatically change the government's interpretation of civil rights era laws on anti-white racism rather than discrimination against people of color. Trump, evil. Now, for the last one today, we got to go to Canada. Right? What do we know about Canada, everyone? What do we know? What do we know about Canada for sure? It's filled with the dumbest people in the world. It is the stupidest country that ever existed. It's filled with complete idiots. IQ is pretty high, education is pretty high, but that's the problem, right? That's why you've filled a country with complete and total morons. They're the dumbest people, and it's not even close. It's like sometimes I say to you, maybe there's other countries like New Zealand's filled with idiots, and I've heard that a lot of Australians are dum-dums. And every time I look over at Britain, I'm like, what a bunch of losers. All those places, right? Just filled with stupid people. But Canada, so when I take a close look, when I take a really close look, there's just no way. There's no way any of them can be Canada. Now, I will always say that maybe it's just because I know Canadians the most, right? But this one here brings them all together. We got some Scottish stuff. We got some English stuff. So it's Canada talking about Scotland. It's awesome, right? This is the last headline of our Moscow time before we go into our theme. CTV News in Canada writes, I look forward to being arrested. J.K. Rowling challenges Scotland's new hate crime law. Thank you, Canada. Thank you, Canada. You're really great. So it made me think, right? All these people yesterday going on about J.K. Rowling and then all these other people, and two comments caught my I have a Canadian bias. I do, Bitcoin Graffiti. I have a Canadian bias. Yeah, I'm sure there's dumb people everywhere. I'm sure of it, right? Yeah, I'm sure of it. Yeah, the Anglos are they're mostly the culprits here. Yeah, the reason is they have the worst brainwashing. Right, most of the brainwashing is targeted at them. That's why it's very easy to see. The Quebecers in Canada have a different brainwashing, so they're not as retarded as the English Canadians. They're full of dumb shit. I mean, they have their own brainwashing, and it's very easy to see if you're outside of the bubble. So they're filled with really dumb stuff in Quebec. But it's been a long time. They're sort of used to it. They've learned how to talk beyond politics because they've been so divided by their own brainwashing for 30 or 40 years. So, there's a lesson there. All right. So back to the issue of J.K. Rowling. So what's going on with her is she is apparently they're going to look into arresting her. I mean, that's a real story, right? So they're looking into arresting her. It's because she misgendered somebody. It's this gender thing. She did an April Fool's thing where she talked about all the women to celebrate, but it was a bunch of murderers and criminals and perverts and pedophiles. And at the end, the joke was, none of these are women. They're all men, right? So that enough for pointing out that a group of criminals, perverts were trans and that there was a pattern. She's apparently going to get arrested. So she's laughing about it, saying, I look forward to getting arrested, right? It's great. But the whole scene reminds me of this. And this comes from Catherine D. And this is related to our theme, Metaverse money. Oh, that should say and role play theater is all they got, not and. Whoops, that's okay. I'll fix that later. So what she writes is, literature has been replaced by the role play nature of the internet. So has film. Been a cornerstone of my work for 5 years. We can't see it though. It's why I don't fear the metaverse. This is the metaverse, she says, right? This is the metaverse. And Mark Andreessen agrees, and he says 100%. Much of film and literature has subsequently turned into internet role play as the author's brains have been eaten by internet politics. And that's what you kind of saw yesterday with this J.K. Rowling thing on both ends. Both people making big theater about it all, right? Oh, yeah, what's going on, right? Now, the difference here is that it's a little bit like the Israel Gaza thing. A lot of internet role play on that, right? Whether or not take my own stance on the issue out of your head for a second, right now, and mine is changing, right? It's changing. I'm so sick of the ADL and all that shit in America that I don't know why I have to take their back if they're not helping out in America at all, right? I don't know why, but that's another story. What it is, my ultimate opinion about what's going on in Israel and Gaza has always been the same, right? It's really about power. Israel has the power and they're going to do what they want. Any opinion you have about history is all stupid. It doesn't make a difference, right? Who cares? Who cares? It just doesn't matter. One has power, the other doesn't. They suffered some kind of injustice and they're going to exercise their power on the situation, right? So it's a power issue. Bitcoiners understand that the words behind all this stuff don't really matter, right? That's fiat thinking. Like what someone thinks about Israel and Gaza is beyond the point. It just doesn't matter, right? It's a fiat mindset to go that way. To be outraged about it, I get why people would be outraged. I understand, right? A whole lot of genocide and this and that. And the reason why people would be outraged about that and be compelled to say something is totally understandable. But only if your mind is truly trained on this fiat world where you think a history lesson is going to change people's minds. It's not going to change people's minds, right? If someone comes to me with a history lesson about the Middle East, I'm going to tell them to get fucking bent. Get the fuck out of here. Do you think I need your stupid historic filter for me to understand what's going on over there? I don't. I don't, right? So it's the same thing with this J.K. Rowling thing. And it's something we're all about to really realize as Bitcoiners and as able people. Because remember, World War III, what I like to say is between the Allies, right, the All-Eyes, right, the nation states that allied together in World War II, who have now become the All-Eyes, versus the Ables, the able people, the capable people, right? So it's the All-Eyes versus the Ables. We don't need the same numbers. We just need to be capable of widespread, more or less persuasion in order to fight against that system. So J.K. Rowling, here's what Balaji says about what we saw right now with J.K. Rowling in Scotland. And there's a relationship here to Bitcoin, and I'll move into that. He says more people follow J.K. Rowling, 14 million, than the entire population of Scotland, 5.5 million. So she can summon her people online to push back on freedom of speech restrictions offline. The network is growing stronger than the state. And we know, and this is another prediction, J.K. Rowling is going to be a Bitcoiner in this cycle. She came very close last time, if you remember. Very, very close, right? She said, I want to know about it. And then she started talking with Lee Quen, who I know, who I've worked with many times. She was a CoinDesker, and her and Lee started talking about this stuff. Lee's kind of gone away from Bitcoin, so I don't think she's playing this role as much anymore. But at the time, we thought we could sort of bring J.K. Rowling into the fold. This cycle, it will happen, right? But more importantly, what he's saying here is this 14 million thing versus Scotland's 5 million people. And that's a numbers game, but truthfully, it's about the one J.K. Rowling against the 5.5 million. Just as Balaji said, she can summon her 14 million online followers to the debate, but it's still 1 against 5 million if you boil it all down, right? And those are the odds that Bitcoiners are kind of playing with here, right? We're playing with these asymmetrical odds that are all these NPCs against one capable and able Bitcoiner. Now, we saw this performance story yesterday, and Bitcoiners were doing it too, right? It was the Argentina story, right? Max Kaiser says, Milei makes his first major mistake. He never took the time to understand Bitcoin. Now he'll suffer the consequences. And you've got people saying, I have roots in Argentina. Turned out to be a fluke, fake, weak libertarian after all. So if you don't know what's going on here, Milei yesterday capitulated to the FATF monsters and has forced Bitcoin exchanges and wallet and service providers into registering online, whatever the fuck that means, right? Now everyone knows this guy, Neo Bitcoin Latam, 21 millones BTC is his Twitter following. And he says, Javier Milei caved to pressure from FATF, who paid a visit to Argentina and forced them to pass the law, FATF recommendations. most likely a condition to help improve the IMF loan. So indeed, this is something I predicted when I saw the IMF coming. I said, he's going to make a deal with them, right? Now, if you know me, you know that FATF, I think, is one of the most evil organizations in the world. It should be fought at all levels, all the time, and we will destroy it eventually as Bitcoiners, right? It is our destiny to destroy FATF. It is our destiny to cut the head off of that beast. But here's the thing, right? And now he goes on, just another charlatan. He doesn't have the balls of Nayib Bukele, who facing even greater pressure, put the IMF and others into their place, right? Now, I agree that that is the end state that I want, right? I do want FATF to be not put in their place. They have to be just destroyed. They're useless. They serve no purpose other than to spy on law-abiding people. They don't catch criminals. They don't stop money laundering. They don't stop anything they say they're going to do, right? They're worse than the airport security folks and the airport security protocols in America. It's worse. It's much worse than that, but it's the same idea, right? So what it comes down to, though, everyone yesterday just doing this performance art. It's the end of Argentina. Milei is a backstabber. Well, if you think in fiat terms, maybe. But again, we're dealing with the ables. We're dealing with the ables, the capable Bitcoiners, right? And Argentina has already minted a bunch of these people. Do you think some stupid registration somewhere in Argentina is going to stop any of this? Milei, at the same time as passing these laws, is liquidating the state. He's firing them all. There will be no state capacity to catch Bitcoiners. It's a fake law. It's fake. It's free money for Milei. Why wouldn't he do this deal? He knows what he's creating as a state, a bunch of incompetent, mentally handicapped losers that are not going to be able to stop the Argentinian Bitcoiners. And he's already firing them all, right? So who's going to stop this stuff? It's like in America, right? They do these kinds of things all the time. What's the state capacity going to be to enforce this stuff? It's nothing. It's going to be worse than Scotland trying to arrest J.K. Rowling. It's going to be a pathetic display of impotent, limp dick, fiat-based governments, which I think is what, and I don't want to mind read Milei. I'm guessing here, right? I'm mind reading and guessing. But my bet is Milei is smarter than FATF and the IMF in this case. He saw free money. They said, do this. He said, sure. What do I have to do? The companies have to register with some bureau that I'm not going to fund, that's going to get no money, that I'm going to close anyway, and that's going to be filled with mentally handicapped, incapable people who are running on all lies operating system. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. Now, the big story yesterday is everyone saying, oh, he's a charlatan, oh, this and that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's all true. Right? But in my mind, saying that he's like siding with the state when he knows he's building an incompetent and incapable state is kind of brilliant. Right? It's kind of brilliant. Now, the pressures, people can say they'll equivocate El Salvador and Argentina. Argentina is a much bigger prize and jewel for Bitcoiners than El Salvador. El Salvador is great. We need it. I mean, it's going to go down in the history books. Psychologically, I don't think we could be as successful if we didn't have one state that was going to accept us no matter what, right? It's a little bit like I think about the Second Amendment in America. Like, I don't give a shit if other countries ban guns. I wish they wouldn't, right? But as long as America and one country in the world makes guns available, it's going to be enough to win the whole thing, right? And in this case, we had Argentina as one place where, we had El Salvador as one place where we could go, and this allowed us to take a little more risk on the other end. So that, experiment a bit. So I think it's sort of a false alarm, this Argentina thing. Time will tell. Yeah, it's going to be a time will tell thing, right? Yeah, and there will be false messiahs. Yeah. But again, it's not going to stop Argentinians, even if Milei betrayed the Bitcoiners, even if that's true, right? Will the Bitcoiners be hamstrung by a FATF registration portal? No, they're not going to care. Like, who gives a shit? That won't make a difference, right? Now it's going to affect some volumes, but other things will spring up. The network state and this fiat state thing is because they're diametrically opposed. We're going to be able to fight it in ways that they just can't compete with. Now, I continue to believe the long-term projection for Bitcoin is I don't believe we win this privacy battle this time around. I think this time around is about separating money and state from simply being able to collateralize their debt as the only money that people recognize, that basically their debt is the currency of the system. So I think we win that fight, the monetary fight, before the privacy fight. I think privacy is next, right? Simply because even Bitcoiners are involved in all of this performance art around privacy, right? Hold your keys. Now, of course, I believe that, but I don't think everyone has to. I think we can get through this without that kind of dogmatic approach, right? I think some people will always be interested in having a custodian, a third party, no matter what, just no matter what. So the idea being that we'll continue to trade away our privacy, more or less, to experts or people who can handle our financial reasons why we would do this. And so that will create this situation where we'll be set up well in the next cycle to get rid of the deputization of the system in order to perform all of these custodial transactional actions. It's just a guess. It's just a guess. But I think we win one and then the next one, right? That's what I think. So the performance here and everyone running around it is going to be, I think, more or less easy, right? More or less easy. You can tell it's going to be more or less easy from the next story. And this is the RFK went on CNN yesterday, right? RFK went on CNN. And in the same way that my book is about triggering cognitive dissonance, right? It's about triggering cognitive dissonance. When you trigger cognitive dissonance, you actually open up a temporary window into someone's mind, because the act of being in cognitive dissonance can, not all times, can open a window where you can actually get into the operating system of the NPC and start jigging with their operating system so that their entire worldview changes, right? And what did I say when RFK first joined this campaign, right? Again, we're on this fight between these fiat information sources, fiat propagation, and the echo chambers that we've all now found ourselves in. And that's this performance art thing that has pushed us into these echo chambers, right? All the people yesterday saying, Millet has abandoned us. They were just talking to each other, right? It's just them talking to each other, trying to outdo each other. I'm more Bitcoin libertarian than you are, and now I hate this I told you this Bitcoin libertarian was a complete idiot, right? So you had this whole performance art thing inside of that. Now, the thing about the performance art is that these are closed sort of theatrical settings, right? The audience is already in on it. They're all fans, if you will, right? Now, what I said was going to be the amazing thing that happened with RFK and entering this primary was that eventually he would end up in left-wing media closed loop theaters. And once you're inside of the closed loop theater, I always use the Armageddon movie analogy. When Armageddon came out in 1999 or 2000 or something like that, 2001, I don't remember. You remember it was Bruce Willis and Ben Affleck, and the whole point was you couldn't shoot there was an asteroid coming to Earth. You couldn't shoot a nuclear bomb at it because it would just bounce off. You had to drill into it, so they hire oil drillers, deep sea oil drillers, and they fly them to the asteroid. They drill a hole, they put the nuke in, and then from the inside it blows up, right? They use a firecracker to explain it in the movie, right? Throw a firecracker at someone's hand and they'll move their hand, or it'll do a little damage. Put a firecracker in their hand and it has to open, right? So what I said often with RFK joining the campaign was that he was going to have this effect inside the performance theater of left-wing politics. And that was going to create massive cognitive dissonance at a scale we haven't seen before, right? So yeah, the firecracker in your hand analogy. Yeah. So what we saw yesterday, and just look at the list of things that he got into yesterday, right? Just look at the list of things that he managed to get into yesterday. So first of all, they was asked point blank, who do you think's worse for democracy, Trump or Biden? Right? What do you think his answer was? They didn't like hearing it on CNN, right? So he says that President Biden is the first president in history. So these are things that CNN audience have never heard in their lives. They have no idea this is even happening. That no one's ever said this to them. They have no clue this is happening, right? Number one, President Biden is the first president in history that has used the federal agencies to censor political speech. 37 hours after he took the oath of office, he was censoring me. 37 hours, he says. Number 2, President Biden is the first president in history to use his power over the Secret Service to deny Secret Service protection to one of his political opponents for political reasons. So he's starting to get this. This is another one. In the same way that they went after Trump and we had the simulation come out and just be hilarious, right? Broke dawn and all of this stuff. And then Trump becomes richer than ever. And the way they tried to kick him off the news and censor him in the first place, he ends up monetizing their evil. He ends up monetizing their evil and leads them to become richer than ever. Right? In the same way, these low IQ, stupid, insular people that exist on fiat propagation, someone went, you know what'd be a really good idea? Let's get this Kennedy. Let's not give him Secret Service protection. No one's going to notice. No one's going to notice if we don't tell them, right? But you can't keep it secret forever. So he goes on there and says, and he's been using this, right? They always try and bring up the family thing because Biden had the whole Kennedy family over, right? That's always the story. Why doesn't the Kennedy family back him? He must be fucked up. He must be fucked up. His own family doesn't like him. Meanwhile, the whole family lives off of basically retard family grants from the government. They all have these no usefulness jobs, these completely useless ambassador. Imagine his sister, or no, the cousin, JFK Jr.'s sister, is the ambassador to Australia. Oh, great. Australia. What? Get on the fucking phone. All right. Does Australia and America need a sitting ambassador? I think a video call would do just fine to run that shithole from America, right? You don't need a fucking ambassador. That's her job. So all of these people are on the Biden tit, and people are still wondering why it's a mystery. Oh, why are they speaking out against their family member? Well, their fiat is going to be cut. They're going to be cut out. Of course they're going to speak against them. It's obvious. They all have these ties. Every one of them has family ties, right? The reasons and the ties go on, but they're great and they're there, right? So RFK comes out and gives this list about why democracy is suffering from Biden and Trump has nothing to do with it, right? He says, if you have a government that can silence its opponent, it has license for an atrocity. And then CNN says, so you're saying it would make an argument that President Biden is a worse threat to democracy than Trump? He says, absolutely. What president in history has ever tried to censor political opponents, right? It never happened. So again, they haven't heard this stuff before, right? They haven't heard this stuff before. He talked about his vice presidential candidate, right? Who I said, look, remember, they're not going with her to convince Republicans, right? She's not the man Republican voting, gun-toting vote attractor. That's not who they're going after. RFK understands his path to victory. It is not siphoning Trump votes. It's nothing to do with that. Trump's MAGA constituency is a lock. They can't be moved. They love Trump. They love him, right? You can't convince that kind of connection. There's never been any politician in American history who's produced the kind of connection Trump has. Now, remember, RFK is not spellbound about Trump. He knows exactly who Trump is. He has been telling the world, he said it at our own show at Bitcoin 2023. He says Trump is the most devastating political debater in America since Abraham Lincoln. That's respect. That's respect, right? And indeed, go after Trump and not have respect, you're going to get punched in the face. You'll end up looking like Biden, who thinks you can get into a insult war with Donald Trump. Imagine how pickled your brain has to be to say, I have a good idea. You know what I'm going to do? My political campaign is going to rest on out insulting Donald Trump. And then the first one he comes up with is broke dawn. And then the simulation punches him in the face and makes Donald Trump richer than ever in the same week. In the same week. So how stupid are these fiat people? They're very dumb. Very stupid. So when you get RFK making this choice for his vice presidential candidate, remember, he understands Trump is a brick wall. There is no path to victory through Trump. That's not happening, right? There's no way. You can't hit him enough times. You'll never shake Trump's fans from loving him. Never, right? And as someone who's been a Trump fan since June 2015, as someone who predicted from June 2015 on that Trump would win, that he was going to be a great president, that he was going to be awesome at his job, and he was going to be funny. And not only that, forget about the political stuff, right? My original prediction about Trump was that reality would change because of him. He was so different. He was everything that I was looking for. I was working for Stephen Harper at the time in Canada. Stephen Harper was the prime minister before Trudeau. But I understood. We won a majority election in 2011. And what did we do with our majority? We tried to suck mainstream media's ass to get them to like us. And it was never going to work. It was a dead end street. I told them at the time, I said, you need to destroy the central broadcaster, the public state broadcasting in Canada. You need to liquidate all of these subsidized media companies. Do not give them money, right? Let the online people take over. Let the media change faster. And what did these moron conservatives do? Next time, we'll get them next time. And of course, they're out of government within a few years. I abandoned them for Bitcoin then and there. Once I knew they didn't even understand the game they were playing, they didn't need my help because it was a dumb game. I'm not going to play a stupid game with stupid people that can't be won, right? So that's what pushed me into Bitcoin. It was FATF and them. And the inability to realize that the priority for Canada at the time was to get rid of the fake news. And they chose otherwise, right? They chose to subsidize them more. And then, of course, what happens? They subsidize really Trudeau's campaign in the end, right? You're never going to win them over. They fucking hate you, right? They've been brainwashed into hating. They were Nazi saluting us back then in Canada because we wanted to like drill oil. All right, that was enough to make you a Nazi back then. So the idea here that that you're on the inside of the bubble and that you can do damage when you get inside that bubble and that you can't do it on the other side, right? I knew the old politics were done and there was no changing it. You had to come up with something like Bitcoin. And the minute I saw Trump, the way he talked, the way he went after and caused cognitive dissonance in the way he spoke was the most important thing America could have. He was going to completely re-alter how we thought about politics, how we thought about the news. Look what Trump taught us. I mean, before Trump, I used to think that if we didn't put our finger on the scale of the media, that it would come out okay, right? That it's all just some good, some bad, some newspapers are right wing, some are left wing, but it was all fake, right? Once you understand money, you understand that that's all fake. And I wouldn't have not understood that. I didn't even really get it until Fox started printing articles right after the 2020 election about and Trump, and Fox called it for Biden. I didn't understand how corrupt it was until that exact moment, and then started running January 6th propaganda, right? That was the most important thing, right? Yeah, he red-pilled more people than anyone in history. Yeah, it's not even close. It's not even close, right? It's not even close. Like I said, I was already a professional in politics. I was far down that road, and when Trump came along, he was beyond what my skills even understood. I knew what I was looking at Michael Jordan. I understood that, right? The minute I heard Mexican rapist, I listened to the speech on the escalator, right? And the minute I heard it, I was reparking my car on Parliament Hill in Canada, late for a Bitcoin meeting with a bunch of senators because we were about to publish our report. And it was my last 2 weeks or something in that job. And when I went to talk to the senators, I said, I just heard the most amazing thing I've ever heard in my life, ever. Right. And I explained to them and they all laughed. They said, oh, it's just a publicity stunt. He's not really going to do it. He's just getting attention. I said, I don't know. I think he's going to do it and he's going to win. Right. He's going to win. Now, go back to RFK here. Right. RFK, with everything that Trump has changed, helped push everyone to these extremes. Not necessarily a great thing, but that's life. Now that RFK understands he can't go against them, this bond that Trump has cultivated with his fans since 2015, the MAGA constituency, is only breakable by his assassination. And then the energy goes to someone like Vivek. It doesn't even probably go to RFK. Or that's not true. RFK could actually probably absorb a lot of it. But that's not the game he's playing, right? The game he's playing is to go straight into the Democrats and create cognitive dissonance at a scale that they haven't experienced yet, the same way Trump did that on the right. And one of the ways he's going to do it is with, now people say, oh, she's a whining woman, the VP candidate, Nicole Shanahan. Well, sure, But that's what Democrats have been trained into listening to, crying and whining women. I mean, that's the whole politics. It's not going to be different. It's not going to be different. It's going to be the exact same. It works, right? She's going to say, oh, this and that. Now, her argument about vaccines, for example, is what first turned me into a vaccine skeptic before RFK, right? When I heard mothers from all political backgrounds in California complaining about vaccines on a Joe Rogan podcast, I don't know when, 2015 or 2016, I'd never thought of that. I'd always laughed at anti-vax people before, right? But the first thing that shook me out of my reverie about vaccines, I would have been one of those people back then. Who wouldn't get vaccines? Come on, what are you talking about? They work, right? What are you talking about? I would never have been into forcing people to get vaccines, that's for sure. But I still, trusted the science, let's say. But when all these mothers started coming out against the vaccines and they changed the laws in California, it made me think twice, because I was having kids. That was the time I was having kids. And I said to my wife, I don't know, what about these things? The business model, it's fucked up. Yeah, it's a David in the lion's den strategy. Absolutely. Yeah. Daniel. Yes. Daniel in the lion's den. Yes. Just listening to her whining about this stuff, about health, about medicine, about all of this stuff, is going to have an effect inside that closed loop theater, because that's his path to victory. His path to victory is cutting the Democrat Party right in two, and he can win. If he does that correctly, he wins, right? There's only about 40% of the electorate that's definitely going for Trump. Definitely, right? He can break the Democrat stronghold on the legitimately 60% of Americans who think of themselves as centrist or liberal or Democrat. He could get most of those, especially with such a weak opponent like Biden. That's why everyone's freaking out about it, right? That's why now RFK is the big threat to democracy. That's why their strategy is to literally hope he gets assassinated. And it came up last night, right? Someone even called in, they did some call-ins, and someone called in and said, what do you think about getting assassinated, right? And he said, basically, I wish they would give me Secret Service protection. It's obvious that I'm a target. It's obvious that I'm at risk. This is at great personal expense. It looks like the strategy is to bankrupt my campaign because I can't do this. Now, they went with the lawfare as well, with all these different states where they said, and you know why he had to pick the VP now, right? You know why? Because they were saying there was these old laws that said you can't be on the ballot unless it's both the president and vice president on the ticket. So he was being denied, because of Democrat lawyers, ballot access unless he put his vice president out there, which is why he chose her the way he did when he did. So indeed, and she's going to take this whole chronic disease, food, medicine, big pharma argument and talk about it, not in science, right? That doesn't work. She's going to create cognitive dissonance on the side of liberals who haven't heard this stuff before. And again, even the men that are left over on the Democrat Party, which are very few, right? There's not really a man's party anymore. Politics are becoming very divided by gender. It's the reason why you see all these articles about, black men and Latinos are moving to Trump. What's behind it? The real story there is only women are left on the Democrat Party side. That's it. Right? Not much else. There's some low T urban males hanging out around there. There's some, men who don't want to be involved, high T males that think all politics are stupid and they wish everyone could get along and are not really paying attention because they're busy making money and other stuff. So there's still a few of these around, right? But fewer and fewer because of the amount of saturated media around it. But indeed, having this person there, and the two of them together being a contrast to the Republican-Democrat fight is going to help, right? It's going to help. Soy boys, yeah, mostly soy boys, right? We can all see that, right? We can say that out loud. So the thing is, he's got the opportunity here with her to go inside of this echo chamber and do a ton of damage, right? A ton of damage. And here's another person saying, a thought-provoking interview with independent presidential candidate Robert Kennedy, where he honestly and unapologetically answered that President Joe Biden poses a more significant threat to democracy than former President Donald Trump. RFK argued that Biden's use of federal agencies, manipulating the democratic process, He highlighted the Supreme Court case involving the Biden administration's secret communications. That's the Missouri versus Biden case. There it is, right? And here's the quote. I thought this was the screenshot about the assassination, right? Here it is. Yeah. Caller drops bone-chilling question on RFK Jr. live on air. You are going after some of the largest entities that exist. Are you going to live? Are they going to come after you? Right. So that people on CNN had to hear that last night. Right. Here's another person saying today CNN finally had Kennedy live on air, and many Americans got to hear and see for the first time the vision of America that every Kennedy supporter now shares. So this person follows it with, how funny it was that they propagandize the 5-second clips of the interview followed by 5 minutes of analysts telling us what the truth is. This is the opening segment where Kennedy draws a clear contrast between him, Biden, and Trump. So again, they put all of this sort of propaganda into it, even when they have to put him on there, right? But it doesn't really work, right? And they also had people yesterday talking about, the ballot access questions and all of that stuff. So there you go. And really the strategy here, in my mind, is anytime RFK goes up there now and talks about the health issue, talks about the corruption, talks about Biden as an anti-Democrat, he's going to be creating the embrace and amplify move that I wrote about in the Bitcoiner's Guide to the 2024 elections, right? And so this is what it looks like. Right? This is the first section of my book where I talk about this. The third section of the book, but the first time I talk about it. Let's delve into the impact of Bitcoiners armed with the information above, so that's the people and the policies, waging widespread memetic warfare during the 2024 elections. A successful psychological attack of this kind leads to an upgraded America. Since we're dealing with NPCs who don't respond to logic or arguments due to the dulling effect of fiat money, Bitcoin can be leveraged to spark their awakening. Of course, arguing with NPCs is futile. It's not an information problem. It's an information source problem. Plugging them into new source is the task. Instead, we should employ prompt engineering to awaken them. This begins with powerful super prompts. These super prompts create cognitive dissonance in NPCs. In their moment of doubt, our collective payload of Bitcoin memes can be subtly introduced directly into their subconscious. The combination of super prompts and targeted meme warfare has the effect of leading them to figure it out. Such an attack can destroy fiat's ability to psychologically propagate so that its grip on reality weakens, which is what RFK did yesterday. I mean, he is literally attacking their grip on reality, right? Which is what Trump did in the 2015 election. So destroying both parties is what has to happen this cycle. And the Democrats haven't been destroyed to the extent that they need to be yet. And I think RFK can do it. And what we see here is, we get confused. Again, go back to the theme, right? The role play of all of this, right? You get all these right-wing influencers. Oh, he picked a whining woman who is big government connected and she's rich and she's a West Coaster and da-da-da-da. Okay, but you're not the audience, right? And there's a whole bunch of people who exist within the all lies closed loop theater that never heard any of this stuff. I've never had any of this shared with them. Donald Trump is not going to be the vehicle through which they hear about it, right? He can't, their shields are up. He can't trigger them into, he can trigger them into TDS, which is a whole nother problem, right? What she can do and what RFK can do is trigger the people that really do have what they thought was a settled version of reality, and they're going to have that broken. So that's why it's funny, right? That's why it's all funny. All right, let's see what people are saying. Blame Canada. Where can we get your new book? Lance says on my Twitter feed and also on nolanbyerly.com. There's a PDF you can download there. Now let's see what the folks. Oh, here we go. The beauty of Bitcoin is its decentralization. Custody holders are antithetical to the Bitcoin gospel. Yeah, it's true. It's true. But in the long run, right? We're in a staged war. It's a staged war, I guess. By stages, there's stages. I don't mean it's fake. Well, it's also fake. Right? They have a chapter on that. Let me see what Bitcoin Graffiti is saying. Language is control, been a state device ever since the birth of states. Yeah, it sure has. They have a chapter on that in the Sovereign Individual, indeed. As a descendant of Noah, what is happening there is spiritually devastating. Yeah, it sure is. But the Canadians seem to have a serious mental depth, and they're very stupid. They're very, very stupid. Hey, David. Catalino, the sun is up and Bitcoin is working, so shill. Bye-bye, David Catalino. Who's David? What happened? I missed some David. I love your show when you're actually doing it, but your show has become tech talk about troubleshooting your technical problems. Get the fuck out of here. Like, can I block you? Block user on YouTube. Bye. We don't care about you. Yeah. NPC in the room. Yeah, go watch NPC News, man. Go. Now, guys, I do take seriously the technical stuff. I want to deliver a good show, obviously, right? But the 25-step process that I've got it down to is not easy. One mistake, and you lose it. Tried to watch CNN last night, fell asleep before the Havana Syndrome part, but they did talk about it. So good. All right. That's all I got for today. I hope you guys all have a good day. The sun should come out here. We'll see. Cloudy and whatnot, but we got stuff to do. All right, team. Peace.